Hi, I'm Dr. Shannon Subashe with Los Alamos Equine Veterinary Services, and today we're going to show you how to do a leg bandage. I will have an assistant, Samantha, helping me, as well as my horse Taps to demonstrate on. And you may need to wrap a leg if you have some kind of a wound that you're trying to keep clean, but also in cases such as your horse having a prolonged period that they have to stay in their stall and they may get stocked up, and this will help reduce some of that. And so if you're going to wrap for a wound, you're going to need a non-adherent pad or a non-stick pad to go over the wound itself. And then you'll have a cotton roll, very thin gauze, just to hold it in place. The ones at the human drugstore are usually about 2 inches. You may find that working with horses, having a 3 or a 4 inch is easier for you to apply. Next, for the regular stable bandage that doesn't apply to a wound or on top of your wound dressing, you are going to have some padding. So we call these pillows, and these are going to protect against uneven pressure that you might be exerting. And then you'll have your track wrap on top, and this is kind of a stretchy material that'll help hold your bandage in place, and it usually ends with a Velcro. Now, when you have bandages on a horse's leg, I would recommend that you keep them pinned up where they cannot get wet, because then the bandages will sag and could become tangled on them. So try to keep them in a stall or at least in a covered area where they're not going to get tangled in their bandage if it does come undone. So if your horse has a stitched up wound on the leg, you are not going to need to apply anything. However, if you have an open wound on your horse's leg that you might apply some kind of ointment to, this is the point that you would do that. Any kind of antibiotic from your veterinarian, even just triple antibiotic like Neosporin from your drugstore works perfectly fine. And then you're going to apply your non-stick pad first, and try to crinkle up these pieces first so that they don't fly away and frighten your horse. And now we'll just say that the wound is right here on the outside of the leg, so you'll get that in place. And you'll just apply this on at a nice even pressure, slowly moving down the leg. And you want to have about 1 inch or 2 below and above your padding. And as you see, I am wrapping from the front to the back of the leg and going towards the outside. And the way that I lay my wrap down, it just sort of rolls on naturally. Next, you're going to grab your pillow, and if there's a little bit of stuff on it, try to get it off, but that's why you have this nice stuff directly over your wound if you have it. Now, again, I like to start just on the inside of the leg and wrap around. And then you get your track wrap. So for this, I will go 1 time around, and then with this little corner, I like to fold it down and then go 1 more time around, and that kind of helps it from slipping. You want to come down about 1/3 of the way down your bandage. And see how I snug it every time I'm across the front of the leg. That's when you want to pull tight and then just lay it down. And you put your Velcro on there. Now, in an ideal world, you could end on the outside of the leg. If you were worried about your horse catching this, you could just do an additional little duct tape strip across here. But unless they get really old, as long as you have clean wraps, they generally stay pretty well. Now you'll notice I left about 1/4 inch of padding above and below my wrap. And also for the length, you want to make sure you are below the knee and that you come just to the level of the fetlock, depending on the location of your wound. So obviously, if your wound is actually over the fetlock, you're going to be setting your bandage down lower. But for most ones that are kind of mid-cannon bone, this is an appropriate length, and this is where you want your stable bandages to sit. So if you're going to take this off, I find a good way is just to try to get it off as quickly as possible. Don't try to keep it nice and neat. Just get it off and you can worry about getting everything wrapped nice again afterwards. So I literally will just undo my Velcro and then I just roll it in a ball as I get off here. And then even your padding can just roll right off. And then this part, if you have covering protecting your wound, I like to have a pair of bandage scissors to cut it off. And then you can just pull that right off too and do whatever cleaning that you might need to do and reapplication for another day. Now rolling these track wraps up can be a little tricky. So I've just pulled this off of my horse and I would recommend having a kind of clean area underneath of yourself. And you're just gonna let the whole thing undo. And this is crucial. So you want your Velcro to be on the inside so that when you unwrap it, it'll be on the outside. So I like to use my leg and I fold this Velcro down, adhere it to itself. And then I worry less about having my roll perfect than about getting it nice and tight, because that'll make it easier for you to wrap. So I get this first part rolling, and then I like to pull one hand over my knee and roll with my dominant hand. And there you go. You can just straighten it out every once in a while. This will also help get some of the debris off as you're pulling it up that you might have picked up. And now your wrap is nice and tight and ready to be applied.